Next year is looking to be a huge year in video games. We'll finally see some of the most anticipated games arrive. This will include vast and beautiful worlds to fun and exciting gameplay to gritty and deep storytelling. 2018 will offer something for every gamer out there, whether that's on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, or the PC. Nonetheless, this is the top 25 games coming in 2018. Make sure to share your most anticipated games in the comment section below. And let's begin here at the number 25 spot with ASHEN, which is an open world survival, combat and exploration based video game set in a fantasy environment in development by indie developer Aurora 44. It's set in a sunless world and tells the story of a character seeking a home. Gameplay is described as including open world exploration, cooperation or completion with other players, and combat with in-world monsters. The game is presented in a third-person view with a muted cel-shaded graphics presentation. The game has been described as containing gameplay elements of classic role-playing games such as King's Quest, as well as games such as DayZ. If Dark Souls and Journey were put together, I have to believe ASHEN would be what you get. Revealed at E3 2017, it was one of the gems to come from Microsoft's conference. Very little has been shown, but there's a lot to like, and I'm not too sure how far this game is in development, but I'm excited to see more from this. And at the number 24 spot, we have GREEDFALL, which is an action role-playing video game developed by Spiders and published by Focus Home Interactive. The game features a 17th century styled fantasy setting where an island paradise has been discovered by colonial forces from several distinct nations from fictional lands but with magic and monsters. You play as a neutral, able to ally yourself with either the nature-loving natives or any of the nations seeking to exploit the island's resources. GREEDFALL is about combat, but it's also about diplomacy, deception, and stealth. Your actions, from seemingly trivial choices to the most important political decisions, will influence and affect its course, as well as the relationship between the different factions established on the island. We've only seen a bit from this game, but I do like the setting and theme of this, but Spider's past role-playing games aren't all that encouraging, so this definitely is a wait and see. Now at the number 23 spot, we have SHOWDOWN, which is a survival horror multiplayer video game in development to be published by Crytek. The game's official description reads as so: in this tense match-based first-person player versus player monster hunter from the makers of Crysis, you will face off against unearthly horrors in the forgotten corners of the world. You will hunt and you will die, but without risk there can be no reward, and when the water runs with blood, you better hope it's not your own. We've only seen a small look at this game so far, but at E3 2017, SHOWDOWN received critical acclaim, receiving Destructoid, Game Informer, and PC Gamer's Best of E3 2017 award. IGN also described the game as an intricate blend of survival shooter, team exploration, and dynamic open world horror with just a pinch of roguelike RPG thrown into boot. Originally, this was intended to be a spiritual successor to Darksiders. This game has endured a long and crazy development, but I think we all have to admit what we've been shown thus far looks exciting, and it definitely is a title to keep your eyes on. And at the 22 spot, we have YOSH, which is a side-scrolling platform video game in development by Good Feel for the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo describes this as YOSH heads on a new adventure in this new action platforming game coming to the Nintendo Switch. Explore a great big world decorated like a miniature diorama. Look for items throughout the stages and team up with friends in a new art style for the franchise. Unlike most side-scrolling games though, YOSH allows the player to view the game from two opposite viewpoints, allowing the camera to flip sides to see behind objects. The viewpoint is changed when the player has the Yoshi character stomp on the ground. The game does play similar to prior Yoshi games, where the player may use Yoshi's tongue to eat enemies or other objects, turn them into eggs, and throw them outwardly into the level. The game will feature a two-player multiplayer mode, where each player maneuvers their own Yoshi throughout the game's levels. Honestly though, this looks like a fun time, and it kind of, at least to me, reminds me of Little Big Planet. Overall, this just seems like an exciting, action-packed experience featuring Yoshi. Now at the number 21 spot, we have Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a role-playing video game in development by Warhorse Studios. It's set in the medieval kingdom of Bohemia, an imperial state of the Holy Roman Empire, with a focus on historically accurate and realistic content. The game will begin in 1403, where the old king has died, and his heir lacks the power to secure his throne. The new king's brother seizes this opportunity to kidnap the king and pillage his lands, seeking his own advancement. The game will follow the son of a blacksmith whose family has been killed by the invading army. The protagonist seeks revenge and will ultimately strive to restore the rightful ruler to the throne in order to the land. When this game was originally announced, I was so excited for it, mainly because it's a historically medieval game. Some of the early alpha that was shown and the delay had gotten me worried, but our latest trailers from E3 2017 for this game look great. It makes me hopeful that we can experience amazing quests and huge battles within this vast, chaotic world. At the 20 spot, we have Darksiders 3, which is an action role-playing hack-and-slash video game being developed by Gunfire Games and published by THQ Nordic. Players will take control of Fury, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and this will be played from a third-person perspective. Fury, a mage who is described as the most unpredictable and enigmatic of the 4 horsemen, relies on whips and magic in combat. The story will take place parallel to the events of the previous games in what is described as a ruined, war-torn planet Earth. It follows the protagonist Fury, rider of the Black Horse, sister horseman of the apocalypse, in her quest to destroy the 7 deadly sins. After THQ Nordic released Darksiders War Mastered, most of us knew this was coming, and being a longtime fan of this franchise, I'm excited to see where the story goes with Fury. A lot of people felt disappointed with Darksiders 2, but I really hope that this next game can drive the interest back and lead to this franchise moving forward. At number 19, we have Skull and Bones, which is a multiplayer action video game developed by Ubisoft Singapore. It's played from a third-person view, and players will take control of a customizable pirate captain and may choose to sail the Indian Ocean by themselves or accumulate up to 5 other players to ally or engage in combat within disputed waters. Gameplay of sailing our ship is described as so. Wind positioning can be assessed to gain an advantage in battle. Players may collect additional ships throughout the game, such as sloops of war, frigates, and brigantines, whose weapons include mortars, cannons, and rockets. Ships can be charged into with brute force and boarded. The rate of inflicted damage is gauged by the health bar. A core component is loot hunt, where 2 groups of players are challenged in treasure hunting to further accumulate their riches. Each given ship's crow's nest is scalable for use as a lookout post, and spy glasses can be used as well. Say what you want, but Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag had some amazing naval combat. Skull and Bones is pretty much the standalone game of that, just without the Assassin's Creed touch to it, and it looks awesome. As Ubisoft has noted, the water and world overall looks great and very realistic, but the main elements that got me excited was the multiplayer that looks like a blast, and the Kraken that was teased at the end of its debut trailer. Skull and Bones is certainly a game to keep on your radar. And at the number 18 spot, we have Kirby, which is a side-scrolling platform video game for the Nintendo Switch. Revealed at E3 2017 like Yoshi, Nintendo describes it as Kirby is back in this new title coming to the Nintendo Switch console in HD. Recruit enemies as helpers, use Kirby's copy abilities such as sword, fire, and water, and join forces with up to 3 friends for a different kind of team-up action. The game does appear to have many similarities with the cancelled Kirby game, which was revealed at E3 2005 for the GameCube. Kirby will be able to throw hearts to turn enemies into computer-controlled allies, a variation of the helper system from Kirby Superstar. Besides this is the ability of Power Combination, originally from Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. In addition to these gameplay abilities, Kirby will retain all of his other known abilities used in past games. In the past, Nintendo has experimented with changing the format of Kirby games, but this clearly is going back to the roots, and it looks fantastic so far. Now to the number 17 spot, we have Monster Hunter World, which is an action role-playing video game being developed and published by Capcom. The game will feature much larger maps, no loading screens between zones in the map, and 4-player online co-op. It will also allow players from Japan and from Western regions to play together, a first for the game in the series. The players will take the role of a hunter that is tasked by a local village to hunt down or either kill or capture large monsters that roam outside the village. The player's character does not have any intrinsic abilities, but instead these are determined by what equipment the character is equipped with. This includes a weapon which comes from several archetypes, such as a long sword, bow, or guns, which then further defines the types of combat moves and abilities the players can use, and pieces of armor, which can lead to beneficial or detrimental combat skills if matched properly. At first, I'll be honest, I was very nervous about this, but since then I've read up and seen that it is an extremely popular franchise that is finally making its move to the West with this next installment. We've only gotten a brief look at it thus far, but it definitely has my attention with a very unique world and monsters to hunt. And at the number 16 spot, we have Detroit Become Human. It's a neo-noir thriller video game being developed by Quantic Dreams. The plot revolves around several playable characters, all of whom are android, among them Kara, who escapes the factory she was made in to explore her newfound sentience, and Connor, whose job is to hunt down deviant androids like Kara. The characters may survive or perish depending on the choices that are made, which serve to shape the story as customized by the player. There are multiple playable characters in the game who can die as the story continues without them. As a result, there is no game over message. Following a character's death, the story will branch out depending on which choices are made. The more information one collects within a loaded time, the greater the chance of success will be in deciding a course of action. And this game will be only between 8 and 10 hours, but will allow us to have a lot of replayability because of the amount of choices and the fact that we can play with different types of styles each playthrough. And from the sounds of it, Quantic Dreams is making a crazy experience that will make every choice we do meaningful. Now to the number 15 spot, we have CRACHDOWN 3, which is an open-world action-adventure video game being developed by Sumo Digital, Regent Games, and CloudGen. Explore the heights of a futuristic city, race through the streets in a transforming vehicle, and use your powerful abilities to stop a ruthless criminal empire. CRACHDOWN 3 delivers cooperative mayhem in an all-new multiplayer mode where destruction is your ultimate weapon powered by Microsoft Cloud. Coming alongside the Xbox One X, we are finally jumping back into the world of CRACHDOWN. The full destruction teased years ago is said to only be a part of the multiplayer, which kinda bums me out, but I still think the campaign could be a blast. I've been waiting for this game for years now, and so far the gameplay looks encouraging, and having Terry Crews a part of this is also a nice touch. But CRACHDOWN 3 was originally intended to come in late 2017 as a launch title for the Xbox One X, but it was delayed to 2018. So I hope this really doesn't turn into anything like the Scalebound situation for Microsoft, because this looks like an action-packed fun time that most of us wish to experience. At number 14, we have Mount & Blade II Bannerlord, which is a medieval action role-playing game developed by Taleworlds Entertainment. The game is set 200 years before Mount & Blade Warband, taking place during the decline of the Calradian Empire and the formation of the kingdoms that appear in the previous games. The armor, weapons, and architecture will draw inspiration from 600 to 1100 AD. Furthermore, there are many different vassals which serve the kingdom the way they do. Bannerlord will also include at least 8 major factions, each composed of competing clans with their own goals, as well as minor warband factions like mercenaries. The game's graphics have been significantly improved from its predecessor, having better shading and higher detail models. The character animations are created utilizing motion capture technology, and the facial animations will also be updated to improve upon the portrayal of emotions. Gameplay related features are also being upgraded with a new inventory interface and better artificial intelligence. The siege system is also being improved based on player feedback, with additional tactics being available during sieges. I've eagerly been awaiting for this since 2012 when it was first announced, and while at E3 2017 we got some great new gameplay, I'm hopeful Taleworlds will give a release date soon. All the improvements, as I mentioned before, sound great, and being someone who invested hundreds of hours into Warband, I'm looking forward to this next experience when it finally arrives. Hopefully soon. At the 13th spot, we have Star Wars by VISCERAL Games. This is probably one of the most exciting Star Wars games coming in 2018, being led by Uncharted creator AEMAHE, Assassin's Creed producer Jade Raymond, and Gotham's Todd Stashwick. Reports right now indicate that this game could be featuring an open world based on EA job listings, and from the brief footage we have seen of our protagonist, it has him in Mos Eisley's cantina on Tatooine, walking out to a few Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters, alongside some Empire flags and Rebel graffiti, indicating that this game will take place during the Galactic Civil War, and because Tatooine is an Outer Rim planet only gaining attention after the events of A New Hope, this game could be set during the first trilogy, and maybe we get to see some of our favorite characters like Han Solo and Chewbacca. A lot of fans wanted to see a KOTOR 3, but honestly this VISCERAL game Star Wars sounds exciting, and hopefully very soon we'll be getting a better look at where we're headed next in a galaxy far, far away. At the number 12 spot, we have Metro Exodus, which is a semi-open world first-person shooter video game developed by 4A Games and published by Deep Silver. It's set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland of the former Russian Federation. The player must cope with the new hazards and engage in combat against mutated creatures as well as hostile humans. Set in 2036, continuing the story from Metro Last Light's redemption ending, the player assumes the role of a 22-year-old Artyom who flees the Metro in Moscow and sets off on a continent-spanning journey with Spartan Rangers to the Far East. Artyom first travels around the Volga River, not far from the Ural Mountains, to get a ride on a locomotive known as the Aurora that heads east for a new life. The story takes place over the course of 1 year, starting in harsh nuclear winter in the Metro. Another major character returning from the previous game and the book Metro 2035 is Anna, who is now Artyom's wife. Development of this game began in 2014 at 4A Games Studios in Malta and Kyiv. Personally, this has to be one of my most anticipated games of 2018, as this franchise is one of my favorite. Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light were just phenomenal and underrated survival horror games, but it does appear Exodus will have more variety with adventuring to different parts of Russia. But once again, we will still play as Artyom and continue his travels, hopefully once again seeing the Dark Ones who promise their return at some point in the future. To the 11th spot, we have Shadow of the Colossus Remake, which is an action-adventure video game being published by Sony. It was revealed at E3 2017 that Shadow of the Colossus was being remaked, as it did release originally in 2005, and it is said to be coming early next year. The original synopsis of this game was a man named Wander attempts to bring a maiden who was sacrificed back to life by defeating a series of colossal stone creatures so that a magical being named Dorman will revive her. The game takes place in a fantasy setting, with most of the game's events occurring within a vast and unpopulated peninsula known as the the Forbidden Land, separated from the outside world by a mountainous range to its north and sea to the south and east. This remake is led by Bluepoint, who developed the earlier PlayStation 3 remaster. The developers remade all the game's assets from the ground up, but otherwise retained the same gameplay from the original title, along with the introduction of a new controller scheme. The original game director provided a list of recommended changes to Bluepoint for the remake, but he did say that he does believe that most of them will not be implemented, nor would they add any of the colossi that had been cut from the original game. This is regarded by some as one of the greatest games of all time, and I'm extremely excited for this remake. It seems that most of the elements from the original 2005 game aren't being messed with, which is great, and it will allow this current generation of gamers to experience such a special video game. Now at the number 10 spot we have Kingdom Hearts 3, which is an action role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix. Sora will once again be the protagonist of the game, and the premise of Kingdom Hearts 3 is continuing from Dream Drop distance. Sora, Donald, and Goofy will attempt to search for 7 Guardians of Light and the key to return hearts, while King Mickey and Riku search for previous Keyblade wielders in an attempt to stop Master Xehanort's plan to balance the light and darkness, which may ultimately lead to the final showdown between Sora and Master Xehanort. And Kingdom Hearts 3 will serve as the final chapter of the Darkseeker Xehanort saga. Most of the worlds featured in the game based on Disney properties are new to the series, such as the Tangled-themed Kingdom of Korana, the Big Hero 6-themed San Francisco, and one based on Toy Story, though returning worlds appear such as the Hercules-themed Olympus, Twilight Town, and Mysterious Tower. This is a game I've waited for years. I personally have not played Kingdom Hearts since I was a kid, but I really find interest in some of these other unique Disney worlds like Toy Story coming alive. Either way, after years and years of waiting, I'm definitely excited to see this game when it finally arrives sometime in 2018. Now at the number 9 spot we have Days Gone, which is an open world action-adventure survival horror video game in development by SIE Studio. It's set 2 years after a devastating global pandemic. Set in the Pacific Northwest, we play as Deacon St. John, a bounty hunter facing a brutal struggle for survival, searching for a reason to live. At its core, Days Gone is about survivors and what makes them human. Desperation, loss, madness, betrayal, friendship, brotherhood, regret, love, and hope. It's about how even when confronted with such enormous tragedy, they find a reason to live. Hope never dies. In addition to human drifters, marauders, and militia, Deacon must face a wilderness overrun by freakers, mindless feral creatures more animal than human, but very much alive and quickly evolving. Freakers have needs, habits, and behaviors that the player can learn and adapt to. I think we all can agree that the zombie genre has been a bit oversaturated, but there's something special about Days Gone. It really seems that SIE Studio is concentrating on the human interaction through this brutal zombie-infested world, which I feel is a nice move and could set up for some great storytelling and overall a great game. And at the number 8 spot we have Far Cry 5, which is a first-person shooter action-adventure video game developed by Ubisoft Montreal, and for the first time the game will feature a new character creator in which players can customize their character's appearance, gender, and skin tone. It will place a renewed emphasis on close quarters combat compared to previous Far Cry titles by introducing a wider range of melee weapons like pitchforks, sledgehammers, and baseball bats. Joseph Seed, who will be the villain, has risen to prominence in the region. Seed believes that he has been chosen to protect the people of Hope County from an inevitable collapse, and has established a congregation called Eden's Gate. But in reality, Seed is a radical preacher, and Eden's Gate is a militaristic doomsday cult. Under his rule, Eden's Gate has used both coercion and violence to forcibly convert the residents of Hope County, as well as keeping the other residents from contacting the federal government for help. Seed, who assumes the title, quote, the Father, unquote, maintains control over Hope County with the aid of his siblings known as the Heralds. But on the flip side of things, there is a resistance that is growing, and a previous attempt of arresting Seed resulted in the deaths of several lawmen, which brings our character into the fold, as they will take the role of a sheriff's deputy who is sent to Hope County to arrest Seed. Far Cry 5 really has an interesting premise, which has obviously sparked some controversy. Personally, I think it looks great, and it appears that Ubisoft is adding and changing a lot of gameplay elements, which is a nice change, as the last 2 Far Cry games were letdowns to me. I do hope that the story does not follow the same pattern as Far Cry 4, which was pretty straightforward with taking out Pig and Min, and has a little bit more surprise within the story. To the number 7 spot, we have The Wolf Among Us 2, which is an episodic, interactive, fantasy mystery graphic adventure video game based on Bill Willingham's Fables comic book series, and the game is developed by Telltale Games. Very little is known thus far, but it is expected to release in late 2018, and we will see the return of Adam Harrington and Aaron Yvette as Bigby Wolf, who is the protagonist in Snow White. Aside from those details, it is said that this season will tell a new standalone story away from the first season's events, and unfortunately, the cliffhanger ending from the first season will not be resolved. Which, honestly, that big twist that came at the ending Most of us wish to see the aftermath, but maybe it's better left unresolved. This is by far my favorite Telltale series, and Season 1 felt so underrated. It wasn't just the major twist that came, it was the phenomenal storytelling and choices that came as Bigby. Either way, from the looks of it, the cast and fans will finally get brought back into this world very soon. At the number 6 spot, we have State of Decay 2, which is a survival video game developed by Undead Labs and published by Microsoft Studios. It's set 15 months after the events of the first game, the world hasn't gotten much better, and things will soon become even more complicated. Develop each character's traits and skills to improve their capabilities and strengthen your community. Collect resources to build and fortify your base, unlocking crucial new facilities and valuable community options along the way. Elevate your favorite survivors to leadership roles in your community by heeding their advice and completing their goals, and unlock new community benefits and objectives that suit your leader's ideals. Manage your relationships and goals of your survivors to build a strong community that has a lasting impact on the future of your world. Play solo or for the first time in the State of Decay franchise with up to 3 of your friends. I was really hoping to see this in late 2017, but waiting a bit longer is fine by me. State of Decay was a huge surprise, and Undead Labs have done a great job thus far at improving on a lot of the features from the previous game, which gets me excited to this time play with other players through co-op and build huge communities. Now getting into our top 5, here at the 5 spot we have Anthem, which is an open world action role-playing video game being developed by BioWare. The player will assume the role of a freelancer, one of a group of bold and courageous people who leave their civilization to explore a lush and dangerous landscape. Fully customizable exosuits called javelins can be customized to have various unique weapons and superhuman abilities. 2 classes of javelins were shown during Anthem's presentation at Microsoft's E3 2017 conference. One was the Ranger, which is an all-around and balanced javelin, and the Colossus, which is a larger and more heavily armored javelin made to fill in more of a tanking role. The game is a shared world cooperative multiplayer game that can have up to 4 squad members per team. Teams can fight savage beasts and ruthless marauders while exploring lost ruins and experiencing massive world-altering terrain occurrences such as Shaper Storms. Following Mass Effect Andromeda, this is BioWare's next title, which at least to me feels like Crysis and Destiny put together. The world looks vast and the combat looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, but I will admit I still have a bad taste from Mass Effect Andromeda, which gets me worried, but let's all just hope BioWare can shock us with Anthem. To the number 4 spot, we have Sea of Thieves, which is an action-adventure video game developed by Rare and published by Microsoft Studios. The game involves a group of players traveling and exploring an open world via a pirate ship, and assuming different roles such as steering, hoisting sails, navigation, firing cannons, and other tasks. Sail across varied seas and handcrafted islands, battling enemies and unearthing the secrets of those that came before. Form a crew and voyage to treasure-filled islands, face legendary creatures, and test your mettle in epic ship battles against other pirates. Adventure across a vast ocean where every sail on the horizon means a ship filled with real players who may be friends or foes. There's just so much love about this game. The art style is very unique and the combat, adventuring, sailing, treasure hunting looks exciting. The latest E3 2017 gameplay and trailers really makes me feel a little bit more confident that this could be a hit for Microsoft when it finally arrives early in 2018. At the number 3 spot, we have God of War. It's a third-person action-adventure video game in development by Santa Monica Studio. The game will be a soft reboot for the franchise and will take the series to the world of Norse mythology. Kratos will return as the main character, and he now has a son. Kratos acts as a mentor and protector to his son and has to master the rage that has driven him for many years. This new installment will be single-player only. The game will feature elements similar to role-playing games such as archery knowledge points, as well as Spartan rage-timed ability during battle. This ability appears to be a new take on the rage ability of the previous installment. And there's also said to be crafting resources for the player to find. This definitely appears to be a fresh take on the God of War franchise, and I gotta say I'm excited. Even before seeing the trailer, I love Norse mythology, so it's gonna be a lot of fun to explore. Being able to battle new creatures, monsters, and gods sounds pretty darn good to me, and the gameplay is said to be completely reworked. It's gonna be completely different compared to its predecessors, but either way, I think the most important part about this game is gonna be Kratos and his son's relationship, and experience how he'll be able to move away from his past and teach and protect his son. And at the number 2 spot, we have Spider-Man, which is an action-adventure video game based on the Marvel comic book superhero Spider-Man, and it is being developed by Insomniac Games. Peter Parker is now 23 years old and interning at a laboratory while he's about to graduate from college. Peter has been Spider-Man for 8 years and has settled into his role as protector of New York City. Early in the story, Spider-Man defeats Wilson Fisk, who is also the Kingpin, but a new gang emerges known as the Inner Demons, led by Martin Lee, one of New York's most prominent philanthropists, under his alter ego, Mr. Negative. Things get complicated dedicated for Peter's personal life, as Martin runs the Feast shelters located across the city, and Peter's Aunt May works at Feast. Interestingly, Miles Morales has been teased to be involved in the story. Players will be able to use Spider-Man's abilities such as web slinging and wall crawling, as well as new gameplay elements, one of which will be the ability to traverse using parkour. Environmental combat and stealth is also featured in the game. I have to say it, but from what we've seen, this Spider-Man is reminding me of the PlayStation 2 days playing Spider-Man 2. I really cannot explain how hyped I am for this, but so far seeing the combat of Spider-Man leads me to believe that this has Game of the Year potential. I have to add, I wonder how Miles Morales will be involved in the story and how the Peter Parker aspect will play into the game. When this was first revealed, I was excited, and after seeing some gameplay, I'm even more hyped and ready for this. And now, down to our number one spot, we have Red Dead Redemption 2, which is an open-world western action-adventure video game developed by Rockstar Studios. It will be played from a third-person point of view, featuring single-player and online multiplayer components. The official description of Red Dead Redemption 2 reads as so: Red Dead Redemption 2 is an epic tale of life in America's unforgiving heartland. The game's vast and atmospheric world will also provide the foundation for a brand new online multiplayer experience. Rockstar has been quiet about this next installment, but quite a few leaks have come about, including a believed to be early alpha image, world map which was confirmed to be the real deal by Tech Radar, and a Rockstar insider who claims the game will feature 3 protagonists of Dutch's gang, but John Marston is not one of them, and many activities from Red Dead Redemption like gang hideouts will return. The latest update we did get from Rockstar was that the game was delayed till spring of 2018. We also did get some new images showing off dual-wielding revolvers, the open world, characters, and much more. Rockstar has been quiet for the last couple of years, and finally in spring of 2018 we'll see our next adventure with Red Dead Redemption 2. As it has been said, the game was not delayed because it's in trouble, but because they need more time to perfect more than likely the online component. I truly am confident with Rockstar Games that we'll be experiencing an absolute gem when it finally arrives next year, but for now all we can do is patiently await, as Rockstar does what they do best, with staying quiet. This next year in gaming looks bright with so many new and unique games coming, and these are 25 of the best. Make sure to share your thoughts on which games you're looking forward to the most in the comment section below. Also make sure to smack that like button if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and consider subscribing for more videos on upcoming games, and I'll see you later.